Welcome to biology class. Today we are going to start the nervous system. Okay, the second part of the nervous system. The first part we have already done. So in the last class we covered the coordination, the types of coordination and the neuron. Okay, that is the structural and functional unit of life, and the types of neurons and nerves. Alright, so today we are going to do the brain and the spinal cord. Alright, so you know that there are two divisions which make of the nervous system. Alright, that is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now this brain and the spinal cord is included in the central nervous system. That is what we are going to do today. Alright, so the central nervous system, it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. The central nervous system controls most functions of the body and mind. It consists of two parts, the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so that's why the name central nervous system, because it is controlling most of the functions of the body and mind. So the brain is the center of our thoughts, the interpreter of our external environment and the origin of control over body movement. That means everything, the metabolic activities that is happening inside a body, the movement of body parts. Alright, so everything is controlled. Our thinking, this five senses you have, everything is controlled by the brain, like the CPU of the computer, isn't it? So without the CPU, the computer will not work. That's why without the brain, the rest of the organs will not function. The spinal cord is the highway for communication between the body and the brain. When the spinal cord is injured, the exchange of information between the brain and the other parts of the body is disrupted. So this means that the spinal cord, it acts as a connection, alright, between the brain and the other organs. So if connection is injured, that means there will be no, even if the brain will function, alright, the body parts will not receive its signals, alright, and the brain will also not receive the signal from other body parts. So spinal cord acts as a connection. Okay, so let us begin with the parts of the brain first. Okay, so we have parts of a brain, that is the cerebrum, cerebellum and the brain stem. Alright, cerebrum, cerebellum and brain stem. This brain stem, in biological term we call it medulla, M-E-D-D-U-L-A, medulla oblongata. Alright, medulla oblongata. Alright, this will come to this, don't worry. So these are the three parts of the brain. There are other minor parts which you'll do in higher classes much in detail, but right now you'll get confused. That's why you just remember these three parts of a brain. Alright, and you can see the brain is divided into two hemispheres here. Okay, the right and the left hemisphere. Alright, so is it clear? So let's move to the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest and uppermost portion of the brain. Alright, so it is, you can see here, this purplish and pinkish color. It is not like this, alright, this is just for illustration, but it is this big, alright, and it is, you know that it is lodged and enclosed in a bony structure known as skull, alright, which is known as, this bone is known as cranium, C-R-A-N-I-U-M, cranium. Alright, so the cerebrum consists of cerebral hemisphere and accounts for 2/3 of the total weight of the brain. One hemisphere, usually the left, is functionally dominant. That means we have two hemispheres, right and the left. The left is dominant over controlling our language and speech. Alright, so whatever we speak, it is controlled by the left hemisphere. The other hemisphere interprets visual and spatial information. Alright, so cerebrum is the seat of intelligence, consciousness and willpower. So this means that everything is controlled by the cerebrum, your intelligence, the way you think. Alright, the way you question, all right, so the way you understand. Right now you are listening to me, all right, so this, you are watching this video, so all this thing is done by the help of cerebrum. All right, without the cerebrum you'll not be able to understand. All right, your intelligence power will be zero, there'll be no consciousness and willpower. Okay, so remember this name, cerebrum, cerebrum. All right, so in the cerebrum you will see that there are this gray matter and white matter. So you all must be wondering, what are these? All right, so gray matter, the outer portion of the cerebrum, contains cell bodies of the neuron and is known as the gray matter. It accommodates large number of neurons. Okay, so there are large number of neurons, and you know the cell bodies, this cell body, okay, you have learned in the previous class that a neuron consists of cell body or cyton, all right, and axon. So cyton, you know how it looks like, you have drawn the diagram also. So this cerebrum consists mainly of this outer portion of the cerebrum consists mainly of the cell bodies of the neuron, all right, and the inner portion of the cerebrum mainly consists of axon, and it is called the white matter. All right, so you remember this, the inner part is white matter and the outer part is gray matter in the cerebrum. Now I'm going to show you. Okay, this is how it looks when it is cut in a section like this. Okay, so this is how it looks inside. This is the gray matter, isn't it? And the white matter is inside. All right. Okay, so now we move to location size of the cerebellum. Before this, we will do the cerebellum. So what is cerebellum? Cerebellum is the second part of the brain. All right, so cerebellum is located just below the cerebrum. Can you see this red portion here? So this is the cerebellum. All right, so do not get confused by the names here. All right, so cerebrum is cerebrum and this is cerebellum, cerebellum. This is the second part of the brain which is just below the cerebrum. That's why I'm showing you the location where it is located. All right, so the inner part of the cerebellum, it looks like this. Okay, so this is where it is located. Now let us know what is this cerebellum. So cerebellum, all right, you have to know the spelling, is much smaller and it's located under the cerebrum. All right, cerebrum, you know, it's the largest part of the brain. So its main function is to balance the body and coordinate muscular activities. So you have to know the functions of each organ. This I have told you before also. Location and function is very important in biology. All right, from your examination point of view. So its main function is to balance the body and coordinate muscular activities. Okay, so the cerebrum decides the action. You know, you think with cerebrum, isn't it? It decides the action. Whereas cerebellum implements the action. That means all the body movements, the balance, all right, it's controlled by the cerebellum. So cerebellum gets affected by alcohol. That means your movement of the body gets affected by alcohol because it directly affects the cerebellum. If cerebellum will not function, that means there is no balance. Let us now do how alcohol affects the cerebellum. So when you know that cerebellum coordinates movements, isn't it? Thus, when depressed by alcohol, the effect is impaired coordination. That means there is no good coordination. Okay, the reflexes get slowed down and there is no balance in the body. Okay, so this happens when alcohol is there. So you can look in this picture. Okay, this is the part, this part. Okay, so it looks different, right? The alcoholic person, okay, in the alcoholic person, the cerebellum is disturbed, okay, and this is how it gets affected. and it results in the impaired balance of the body. Alright, we now come to the medulla oblongata. Alright, this is also known as brain stem, as I have already told you. So it is the lowest part of the brain and continues up to the spinal cords. Its function is to control all the activities of internal organs. So what are the activities? You know, like beating of the heart. Okay, your heart beating is controlled by other things also, like breathing, alright, respiration, and other all metabolic activities inside. It is controlled by medulla oblongata. Alright, so without medulla oblongata, this other organs, you have done other systems in the body, so they will not be able to function. Like your circulatory system, blood circulation, beating of the heart will not take place properly if medulla oblongata is not controlling. Alright, okay, you can now see the location of medulla oblongata, which looks like a stem here under this cerebrum and cerebellum. Alright, so that's why it's known as the brain stem. Okay, so this red part is medulla oblongata. Now we come to the spinal cord, which is the last part of this class. Alright, so spinal cord is the long, fragile, tube-like structure which extends from medulla of the brain and run down almost to the whole length of the backbone. So like your brain is, I told you, it's enclosed in a bony structure called skull. Alright, when you do skeleton system, then you will know what are these bones. Alright, so just as a skull protects the brain, the vertebral column, alright, protects the spinal cord. So spinal cord is also a sensitive structure, so it has to be protected by a bony structure, which is the vertebral column. Here the inner part is the grey matter made up of cell bodies, and the outer part is white matter made up of axons. So it is just the opposite as cerebrum. In cerebrum, the outer part was the grey matter and the inner part was the white matter, isn't it? So grey matter and white matter of the spinal cord, you can see here. And the outer part is the white matter and the inner part is the grey matter. Alright, this part, grey matter and white matter. Here you can see grey matter and white matter. Alright, so we now come to the functions of the spinal cord. So as I told you, it acts as a connection between your brain and other parts of the body. So the function is to control reflexes below the neck, to conduct messages from skin and muscles to the brain, to conduct commands from the brain to the muscles of the trunk and limbs. These are the functions of the spinal cord. So the spinal nerve, it carries electrical signals. Alright, just like your current from the brain to the muscles of the skeleton and internal organs via spinal cord. They carry sensory information like touch, pressure, cold, warmth, pain, and other sensations from the skin, muscles, joints, and internal organs. So whatever we touch, we feel, we hear, okay? So everything is passed to the brain. Alright? And your brain tells you what to do. So this happens in a fraction of seconds. Okay, we have discussed this in the previous class. Alright, so these are the functions of the spinal cord, and in the next class I would like to show you all how spinal cord works, and we will begin with the peripheral nervous system. Alright, thank you.